So 24 hours ago, the show that we were planning to do today was completely different than what show we are offering up for your consideration today, because something happened last night. Actually, it was last night. Lots happened since then. And that totally changed the game plan, because I have come into possession of a Technics turntable, which is sort of like bringing a Rolls-Royce to a Mercedes. It's like bringing a Mercedes to a Yugo dealership to have a Technics turntable here on Record-ology, because we have always focused on the entry level. And Technics isn't the entry level, and Technics is the higher end level. Now, this isn't like VPI level stuff, you know, the value of a car or a home. This isn't $100,000 speakers and $100,000 worth of wiring kind of level by any means. But in the realm of normalcy among vinyl collectors, this is sort of an upper echelon brand. It is a Matsushita brand. It is a higher end brand for Matsushita, who also brings us Panasonic. So I am kind of giddy and shell-shocked and very surprised that I am able to present to you today this Technics turntable. And also, in doing research for this show and this turntable, I realized there's not much on YouTube about this particular model. There's a couple shaky videos and people awkwardly not talking, and just kind of limited information. In fact, it took me quite a while to realize what the date was on this. I initially guessed 85, 86. Turns out, once I found a spreadsheet that showed this information, I went to that level, spreadsheet level, it was like 79 to 82. So a bit older than I thought, and just so blown away. Now, before we jump into the show, by the way, welcome into Record-ology. So glad to have you here. Before we get into it, I want to kind of dangle a carrot, as it were, for you to stay tuned to the end of the show, because in the outro, I'm going to explain to you how I happened upon this turntable. As I hinted at, it was very unexpected. So definitely stay tuned to the end of the show for that. But let's get right into this, guys. You're not going to want to miss this. Welcome to Record-ology. Behold, the Technics SL-B5 frequency generator servo stereo automatic turntable. I'm really excited. Now, I have touched this and I have fiddled with it a little bit. Let me explain what I have and have not done. When I got it, it was dusty, so I did clean it off inside and out. When I mean inside, I mean under the dust cover, the bottom, the back, the sides. I did not open the unit per se. I did take the platter off. I put a new belt on, I put a new cartridge on and cleaned it, and I did some basic functionality testing to see if it was even a functioning turntable, which it is, and that's it. I haven't listened to it. I haven't really, even fully test-driven it yet. So here we are with a beautiful 1979 to 1982 era Technics belt-driven turntable, and let's review it. Why does it have this enormous, very boxy and cool looking, very 80s looking too, slightly blue tinted dust cover? Because this is a changer. This not only functions as an automatic single disc player, but it comes with the accoutrements to function as a fully automatic stacker, changer, call it what you will. Kind of interesting to see an automatic turntable that doesn't have the stabilizer arm. So that'll be interesting. Apparently they were somewhat famous for these, that apparently the arms would kind of lower the record down. We'll have to experiment and see how that works. And I did have to replace the cartridge. Here's the original head shell. And I've never seen one of these Empire S50 cartridges. It looks like the generator is massive. So tell me, should I look for a replacement stylus for this? Is it worth it? For now, for today, I just put on my Ortofon, Ortofon DJ. It's like a nice rugged, although fairly heavy tracking cartridge. It tracks at about 3.5, 4 grams. Conical. It's going to do the job. It's a rugged, I like the idea of using a more rugged cartridge and stylus for an automatic. So I am going to remove this very reflective dust cover. It's hard to get this angle so that it wasn't just a mirror on all sides. But I wanted to give you an initial look. This is what it looks like with the dust cover on. So let's start by removing the dust cover and taking a closer look. back to the fact that I am not an expert, but merely an enthusiast. Let me kind of give you that preface before we get too far down here. So educate me as we go. But I assumed that the Technics were all going to be direct drive. We'll come to find out they had a lot of belt-driven turntables, this being one of them. Apparently, even though their direct drive mechanisms were, just legendary and high quality, and the SL-1200s is a legendary turntable, they're belt-driven. Apparently, they weren't as good. They're less desirable. In fact, I read a lot of people will find these at thrift stores or used on eBay and use them to cannibalize for parts for higher-end Technics turntables. By the way, I've seen this as low as like $40 for parts as is unit, all the way up to $400 working on eBay. So kind of $150 to $300-ish for one of these if it's functioning at this level, I believe is a fair price. So that, to me, that's a decent mid-range unit. This isn't the most expensive turntable. I'm not sure what these cost brand new. Anybody know that? Let me know down in the comments below. But yeah, it's a beauty. It's gorgeous. It's sort of this very 80s looking. It's officially it's silver, but it's almost got kind of almost a little earth tone and silver mixed kind of. I don't know if that's coming across on camera. It is it's a very lightweight turntable. It's pretty heavy by one hand, but comparatively to a direct drive unit or a weighted unit, it's not that heavy. It's a hollow plastic plinth. It comes with a nice rubber dust mat. Considering this thing is, gosh, what is it? This is like, let's say it's 1982, because it's either 79 to 82. Let's say that this is a 40-year-old unit. It's phenomenal. I mean, look at the bottom of this. That is a 40-year-old, assumedly, rubber mat that looks brand new. This probably aluminum platter here is also, obviously, all of it's 40 years old, and it's phenomenal to see that. So again, belt-driven, the motor. See how the motor's far away from this stuff? That's an indication of quality. Like we said in another show, you want as far away from the pickup as possible so those motor vibrations don't translate over here. And we can release the belt there. We can lift this guy off, and that's what it looks like underneath. Now, when I got this, it was sort of in pieces in a box, so I didn't see. At first, I was like, wow, a direct drive. And then my son's like, I loved it. Out of the mouths of babes. He's like, wait a minute, there's the motor. I'm like, oh, yeah, it can't be direct drive if the motor has a pulley and you can see it right there, because otherwise you would lift this off and see nothing. But again, all molded plastic. Is there any functional reason for these wells that they've molded in under here? I've always wondered that. Some turntables, you pull them off and there'll be like 3 even sections. This one has a nice deep area. Is there a functional reason for that? If so, let me know. I love the design of this platter. When I first saw this, I picked it up and I saw those strobe markings and I was like, oh my gosh, it's a 4-speed turntable. I thought it had 16, 33, 45, and 78. I don't know why I thought that, because obviously it's a 2-speed turntable that is, configurable in both the UK or any other 50 hertz power, and here in the US or other 60 hertz power areas, you need separate strobe markings for 60 hertz power versus 50 hertz. Look at the bottom of the platter again, completely brand new looking. There's the sub platter. It did not have a belt. In fact, the other thing, if you look at these pictures here, this video, you will see that there was something all over this. And at first I thought there was tape, because it looks more like magnetic tape shreds or pieces of cut up magnetic tape. And then I realized it's sticky and gooey. That's the belt. The belt had disintegrated, which always blows my mind. At the same moment I'm looking at this 80s era turntable with a melted disintegrated turntable or a belt, I had open this 1974 Panasonic, ironically enough, branded 8-track unit with an original belt that was perfect, pliable, and doing its job to this day. Obviously, environmental concerns play a big part into that, and temperature, altitude, humidity, all those kinds of things. So let's go ahead and put the belt back on. So being that it didn't have a belt, there we go. I had to steal one from another unit because I'm way too impatient to order one. And it turns out the belt off the Marley stirred up fit this perfectly. And it does a good job. You will notice that the center spindle shaft did come off, just like a dual turntable, because of the fact that it is a changer. So we could put the 45 changer spindle on there, or the, I shouldn't say 45, I should say the large hole record, because it could be 33 or 45. It could be 78, could be anything it wants to be. So those go in when you take off this piece, which is just for single record use. I had read that the predecessor to this unit, the SL-B5, was notorious for having a piece of plastic, this kind of cog gear down there, break. And that is where the auto return functionality comes in, because that cog in the middle drove the entire return mechanism that brings the arm back. So I went to look and see if this one needed to be replaced, as the SL-B3s oftentimes needs to be, and I didn't see a plastic gear. It all looked metal to me. So maybe they improved upon the design. I'm not 100% sure. This turntable has some really cool features, so I want to kind of go through down here close up and let you see what I'm talking about. Okay, we'll just go down the line here. It is a 2-speed turntable. I really wish this was also capable of playing 78s, but it's not. But there's the speed selector switch. We do have a pitch adjustment with these strobe markings and the strobe light. Obviously, we're able to set perfect speed and pitch, which is really exciting. Harkening back to my previous point there on 50 hertz versus 60 hertz, you can see the bottom 2 bands of dots are going to be for us. The very bottom 33 and the next level up 45. This I had to Google search, and it took me a minute to figure out what this is. Memogram. I initially thought, oh my goodness, I have a record player that I can skip tracks on, because those do exist. However, that's not what this is. This basically allows you, when you're using it as a stacker, as a changer, to tell it how many records are stacked. Because it doesn't have that stabilizing arm, it doesn't do it geometrically with the position of the stabilizing arm. It needs to be told how many records you have loaded on there. In my experience, limited as it may be, you probably want to go for the 3-4 records tops. I don't know if I would really put 6 on here. Maybe it will do fine, but again, limited experience here. I'm just learning. The size select there, you've got metric, and then you've got non-metric measurements there. So 7-inch, 10-inch, 12-inch records. That's so it knows where to drop the arm at the beginning of the record, where to drop the stylus. This is a frequency generator servo. So what is that? So it's basically technology that is used to keep the motor speed consistent. So it allows so basically the way it works is it feeds back a signal that the motor is then able to clock against to make sure that the speed is accurate and consistent. Sort of a predecessor technology to quartz lock, a little bit less accurate than quartz lock, but still a good thing to have. So, and the automatic being that it's an automatic turntable. One more thing over here, we've got the start-stop switch. And it's pretty simple. I mean, even I've been told inside is very simple as well. Outside, it's been made as simple as possible, and it does what it's supposed to do. So there's no extra buttons, there's no queuing switch, none of that stuff. So let's go ahead and bounce back and take a look at the cartridge I've got on here. This is just a contemporary Concord DJ. I love this thing because you don't need to align it. It doesn't need a head shell. It just connects to a 1/2-inch mount tone arm, of which this is an S-shaped tone arm with a 1/2-inch mount. You can see we've got the familiar clip there to keep it in place. I remember in the past I've complained that expensive turntables still have a cheap plastic clip to stabilize the tone arm in shipping and in storage. Be careful, by the way, you don't want to have this thing try to lift itself off when it's clipped down. But the fact that they use plastic, I thought that was cheap until somebody said, well, that's actually desirable because it's softer on the metal. And this is a metal tone arm. This is quality stuff, you guys. This isn't based on perceived value like so many things are these days. This is based on actual quality, brand loyalty, all that good stuff. All right, this is cool. Check out the back here. So we have armature back here that is of a higher caliber than we have seen in the past. And we've got the counterbalance, we've got the plastic ring. I've got it balanced to about 3.5 grams. I just did the floating tone arm method. I haven't put this cartridge on a scale. And for our testing purposes today, I don't think we need to, but this track's kind of heavy, this particular cartridge, 3.5 to 4 grams. It's used for DJ purposes. So this thing is used rough and tough. This is designed to be dropped, to be scratched, to be cued. The reason why it's forked in the middle, I'm gonna get a closer look at that. The reason why it's forked in the middle is you can see the actual cantilever and the needle where it's gonna drop specifically, which allows you to cue it precisely. So a DJ needs to be able to cue to precise points. And by the way, that orange band you see, that is from there below is considered the stylus enclosure. Everything above it's the cartridge. So when you replace the stylus, you're replacing this piece right here. The lift itself is also replaceable. It slides into the back of this piece right here, and it's just, you know, easily replaceable. Those bust off all the time as well. But this is a great cartridge. Sounds great. Performance-wise, it sounds pretty much on par with an Audio-Technica 3600L. It is, you know, it's a dual magnet, I believe, and it is a conical stylus. It does all those things the way it should. Back to here, we do have a cueing lever. We have anti-skate. We've got the lift shelf. This piston still has damping fluid in it, so the descend is very, very gentle, which is awesome. Actually, I have a little nub there. That's for the 45 adapter. The one that came with this one, and this particular one, is plastic. It says Technics in there, so I'm guessing that's probably original. It's plastic. It's definitely not as bad as some of the cheap plastic ones you get these days. But yeah, that's where that guy lives. I guess we'll leave it back there. Going back here, we have a space, and this is seen in a C100 from Crosley. It's seen in the LP120 series. Basically, what this is it allows you to keep an extra cartridge. So if you, or an extra head shell assembly. So if you had two head shells, one of them had, say, a certain kind of cartridge on there, you wanted to keep that one aligned and ready to go while you were using a different one, you could do that. So it fits back there out of the way, and then you could swap them out. So when you're done with this and you want to listen to that one, that same little holder there would support that as well. In case you ever wonder what those little holes are for. All right, let's look around the back side of this unit. There's actually not much to see because this does not have any audio circuitry in it per se. There is the audio cable, which is an RCA. Let me pull it over here so you can see it. Basic RCA. This comes straight off the tone arm. This is, you know, not processed. This is the tone arm wires from the head shell, from the cartridge, come out unamplified. So you need to hook this up to a preamp. Because of that, it's got a grounding wire as well, because when you use an external preamp, you need to connect the grounding wire. So we've got the grounding wire. We'll connect that to our preamp, and then the other cord is simply a power cord. And I remember, I don't know if it's still sticky, but yeah, this is kind of gunky. Do you know when you leave like duct tape on a cord? Have you ever done that and then it just kind of keeps that? That might have happened at some point, but this is kind of oily and sticky. I don't know why, or it could have been the Clorox wipe I was cleaning with. But besides that, there's nothing down here. Let's zoom in on this label here. You can see Matsushita Electric Industrial, made in Japan, model SL-B5, and that's about it. There's not much there. It's pretty low power consumption, and it's a basic unit. It spins your records accurately, and the spinning and the changing and all of that is done mechanically. So this is an electromechanical device. You'll notice how it slides around so well. You may be wondering, why is it sliding around so well? Aren't the rubber feet keeping it from doing that? Or maybe it doesn't have feet? Is there another problem he hasn't told us about it yet? Well, let's look on the bottom side. So the reason why it slides so well is these are felt. These little feet pads are not rubber, they're felt. And then the actual foot is pivoting very nicely right here, so it will adapt to uneven surfaces, etc., etc. But that felt is kind of a nice touch. I like that. The bottom panel is painted masonite. That's like a spray painted masonite or particle board type of finish with a very 70s, you know, pegboard aesthetic. Good for ventilation. I also think it's interesting, this plastic piece that protrudes on the bottom is where the cam is. So the cam is a plastic gear. And it's the same basic premise that you'll see on modern changers, on old dual changers. You've got a little peg that slides around on a rotating cam gear, and that allows it to know what position it's in and to push it into the right spot, etc., etc. This is cool that they've separated it out because this means that it's more serviceable. Now, this kind of yellowish looking grease you'll see is pretty indicative of older grease that's aging and drying out. So in the future, it would be a good idea, it would behoove me to take this cover off, remove the old grease, and to apply some new fresh lithium grease. For today's purposes, we're just going to test as is, but I thought it was interesting to note that they have designed it in this way. Next, let's look at the serial number. Via Westlife, if you're watching, please tell me when this thing was made. He can look at these things instantly. Oh yeah, that's the second month of 81, which is actually my guess there. 02 for the second month, and 1 for 81, or perhaps it is 2 for 82 in the first month, January of 82. I have no idea, but there is the serial number. There's the warning sticker on the bottom as well, and that is it for the underside of the beast. Let me go ahead and set it back up, and we will put it through its paces. Another thing too of note, down here, 2 of these peg holes are a little bit bigger, and they feature, I'm not sure what those are, buttons, or it looks like a C-clip of some sorts. I'm not sure what this is. You guys let me know, educate me. I am not 100% sure. That doesn't line up with the motor. It actually kind of is under there somewhere. So tell me what those little markings are, if you know. Okay, so we're gonna start testing the functions of this unit out without listening initially. That'll allow us to just kind of focus on the functionality. And then at the end, we're gonna do a direct feed sound test. I'm gonna hook this back into my main system. We're gonna connect the audio. You can put your headphones on at that point, and we'll do a direct feed sound test. From a design aesthetic, I love this thing. It looks very similar to a friend of mine who has a beautiful 1979 Hitachi, I believe it is. I like this like sharp angle of the slope and the thickness of the platter. By the way, there's no platter wobble that's noticeable. The thing seems to work perfectly well. So yeah, these are dirty kind of test records right now, so bear with me. We're not doing this for sound quality purposes. We're just doing this sort of mechanical testing purpose. Let's test the automatic functionality. So I got the clip off. True to form with an automatic, it seems like whenever this is rotating, that cam is rotating to a new position. So it tends to get into a part of the cycle that has to complete before it's really ready to play a record. So I plugged it in, and the thing starts spinning. This starts trying to lift, even though it's clipped in there. Trying to avoid the stupid mistakes, you guys, but it's a process, right? All right, so let's set this to 33 RPM, and we are going to leave the memogram on 0 for now. This is a 12-inch record. And let's just test this automatic start and stop. So I click start, and it's going to raise the tone arm. Everything looks okay. Again, I really haven't had a chance to fully test this yet, so we're learning together. Those adjustments underneath we were just looking at might have been to adjust the position of where it drops. I know that can be adjusted, as well as the reject point near the back there. But everything seems to be spinning. I'm looking at the strobe, and things seem to be on par for the correct speed down there. And let me try to see if the pitch, yep, that changes pitch. So the pitch adjust works. And at a quick glance, I can see that this thing is rotating at exactly 33 RPM in this case. So there it plays through, and it will go all the way to the end, and it will reject the record, return the tone arm, and shut off the turntable. Now let me go ahead and manually force that to happen so we don't have to sit through 20 minutes of music here. Did you see how that was delayed? When I lifted that, the tone arm kind of came up a second later. That's really cool. So let's put this to the end. Look how gentle that descend is. That's with no added damping fluid whatsoever. That's just out of the box. So this seems like a turntable that an audiophile, took care of. It was very well loved. You can tell it was probably adult use, well maintained. Okay, so we're getting to the end of the record. Yes, look at that. It runs out. It returns a tone arm. Let's see if it stops the platter. And the tone arm's going down, and the platter stopped. It didn't take long, did it, for that platter to rotate around. That belt was a tad tight. I think it was the right size approximately. Maybe a slightly looser belt, it would rotate a bit more. But yeah, that seems to be working absolutely perfectly. So now let's try the changer functionality. Because we are using the changer functionality, we need to take off this single spindle and put on this guy right here. So I've only experienced from working on duals that do this. There's a little nipple, as it were, sticking out there, and that's going down in there. It seems to be in the right spot. And that should allow us, it's really weird not having that stabilizing arm, but we should be able to put the records now right on top. I just put 3 on for now. Okay, that looks okay to me. We're going to switch the memogram to 3 to say this is a set of 3 records. It's not sitting on there as evenly as I think it would had there been a stabilizing arm, but it's okay, I guess. And let's see what happens. I'm just going to literally press this button and see if it drops a record and see what happens. I have no idea what's going to happen, you guys. Let's find out together. Okay, and it's about to drop my stylus on the rubber mat, which is not good. So we're going to bring that home and figure out what I did wrong. It's possible this isn't in the right spot, although I feel like it is. Okay, I think I got it. So I don't think this was down all the way. So I had to kind of, remember how it was kind of spongy? So I pushed it down and rotated, sort of a bayonet connection. So I think I can place the records on here. I'm going to start with the 3 again and see what happens. Wish me luck. 3 records. It sits on there much nicer, much more stabilized now. So that's a good sign. And let's see. Something's going on. Is it going to drop a record? Oh, it works. Yes, I just didn't have that on there right. Okay, that's awesome. So now let's try to force the tone arm to the end of the record and have it reject and go to the next record again and see how that works. Okay, this time with the memogram set to 3 and the records playing. We've got the first one coming to the end. Let's see what happens when that reaches the run out groove, sends the tone arm home. Hopefully it doesn't just drop the next record, but also plays it. And I know all of this is functioning well. It's just, how well do I understand the functionality of it? Like I said, this is pretty new to me. I'm still learning very, very much every single day. And this has been already just an absolute blast. Definitely a step up from my old Glenburn changer. And yes, a step up from my Audio-Technica LP3 automatic as well. So yeah, look at that. So now that I've got the memogram set to the right spot, it knows to play the next record. And if I were to keep playing through, it would do that for the 3rd record as well. So that's what that memogram feature is for. So you know what? One thing that I don't understand on this unit yet is how do I force it to reject to the next record? So let's say I'm halfway through this record and I want it to skip to the next record. So let me test an idea. So if it's playing, let's put it in position about 2/3 of the way back there. What happens if I hit the start stop switch at that point? Will it automatically cue the next record? I hope it does. That would be cool. Yes, it does. So there you go. That's how you force it to reject and go on to the next record. And then if I were to hit stop again, it would say, okay, we're done playing records today. We're going to bring the tone arm home. We're going to shut the platter off. All is good. No, we're going to go ahead and keep playing. We're going to keep playing because this is cool. I didn't notice this before. I kept thinking I was going nuts that the memogram thing was going back to 0 all the time. But you know what? It slides down automatically. It's as you drop each record, this thing, I saw it sliding out of the corner of my eye back to the 0 position. That's awesome. All right, let's do some 45 changing now. I just noticed this. So I'm rejecting and then sending the tone arm home, but watch what the spindle does. Look at that. Isn't that cool? That is crazy. Look at that. That is amazing. This is just phenomenal technology. Yeah, that's a dusty record right there. I'm already starting to really see why, people are... I'm learning, you know what I mean? I'm trying to be as open and humble as humanly possible, but, everybody's always like, go vintage, go vintage, go vintage. And we focus so much on new tech, and I do think it has a place. And I do like new shiny things that are still under warranty. But this is the engineering quality. It just feels like next level. It feels like next level. All right, for 45s, we're going to use this 45 adapter changer spindle. I guess that's what you call it. Same thing. We're pushing it down, rotating it over. Still has some of that gunk on there from that disintegrated belt that was on there. I'm going to put on 4 records this time. 4 45 RPM records. I'm going to switch the memogram to 4 and switch this to 45, switch this to 7-inch, and there she goes. Obviously, you only need that adapter if you're doing a single disc mode with the single adapter, the single record adapter. And there she goes. Let's check that speed. I need to adjust it a little bit. It's running a little bit fast, but no problem. Bringing it in, reining it in with the pitch adjust. Looks like it's doing what it's supposed to do. Let's go ahead and have it reject and go on to the next record here. And she comes out of the way. It's definitely not the fastest changer. Let's try to go on to the next. Keep an eye on that memogram as it slides down when the record drops and we move on to the next record there. That is so cool. That is awesome. This is amazing, you guys. This is so cool. All right, well, I think that we've tested out the functionality. I think that we have proven that it does, from a mechanical and visual standpoint, everything that it's supposed to do. You know what I wonder? As the records begin to stack up here, does that vertical tracking angle become a little bit off? So I'm wondering, does this make any adjustment for the VTA? I don't think so. I think that gimbal stays put. There's no VTA adjustment. This whole thing doesn't pivot up and down like on the LP7 and old LP120s and things of that nature. Even the old BSRs and Glenburns actually, and the duals, will raise and lower the entire thing based on that stabilizer, based on how many records have dropped, etc., etc. Okay, I'm excited because now I get to take this thing out of the kitchen and put it in my office. I am going to mothball the LP3, and we're going to install this. And what does that mean for you? That means that we are going to do a direct feed sound test. So let me go ahead and set it up, and we'll give it a listen. Direct feed. Headphone warning, guys. Get your headphones on. Here we go. Stereo direct feed sound test. And so it came to pass. The Audio-Technica LP3 gets put in the closet and replaced, at least temporarily so, with this beautiful Technics turntable. I'm going to really drive it quite a bit this week. Now, as I think I've mentioned before, I work from home, so I have the ability, when I'm not in constant back-to-back Zoom calls, to listen to a lot of music throughout the day. So my plan is to listen to this turntable this week, and I'll give you guys an update. Maybe we'll do a teardown in the future. I'm not 100% sure. I'm just really giddy with excitement right now, and I want to make sure that I fully, learn this, because as I said, I'm no expert. I'm just an enthusiast. I'm just a guy who got lucky. So I want to, first of all, I want to encourage you guys. This stuff happens to others. I've heard about gifts being given and whatnot. So be on the lookout. The free stuff comes fairly rarely, but every once in a while you'll find somebody say, "Oh, you want a record player? Yeah, I got a record player. I don't want it." And it turns out being one that's really good, like this. So stay encouraged and all that good stuff. So how did I get a hold of this thing? So the show that was planned, like I said, was not this show. It's going to have to wait probably till Wednesday. I've got 3 or 4 different shows in queue right now, a couple manufacturers that I'm working with in terms of queuing up when their show is going to. I have a couple products that haven't quite launched yet, and I want to make sure that they're available to you when we review them. So stay tuned for that. So anyway, I was working on some 8-track machines yesterday. In fact, we got some shorts and TikToks out. Check us out on TikTok if you haven't done so already. Showing kind of the inner workings of some 8-track stuff. I've been trying to clean them up. You guys didn't really care about the 8-track show last time we did. That's okay. You should go back and watch it if you haven't, though. But anyway, I'm cleaning up 8-tracks. I'm trying to get this Panasonic to work better than it is currently. And my son sends me a text. He's like, "Dad, got a surprise for you." And I'm like, "Cool." He comes in about 8 p.m. with a box. And it says Technics on it. And I'm like, what are you doing, Tyler? And he's like, oh, I was over at my friend's house and they gave me this record player. Well, come to find out, his good friend, one of his very best friends that he's known, for years and years, all the way back to high school, had, his father is an audiophile, which I never knew that because him and his friend had played. They've hung out a lot, in the many years that they've known each other. And we were never aware that he was an audiophile, and his dad was never aware that we did a YouTube show about, not audiophile stuff necessarily, but of audio equipment. So he's like, well, my dad, they asked him, they said, would you like this record player? I was cleaning out a garage for his friend. Would you like this record player? He's like, yeah, I think so. And he didn't know if it was a good brand. And I was like, hey, Dad, is this good? And I was like, my jaw's on the floor. I'm like, is that a Technics? Because it was in the box. It was in the box. It had, didn't have the manual, but it had the packing material. It wasn't new, obviously, but it was in the box with all the original packing material. It sat there for a lot of years. And he's like, yeah, he said the tone arm might be broken or the needle or something. And is this any good? Anyway, Dad, this is for you. And just gave it to me. So it's a gift from my son's friend's dad to my son, who then gifted it to me. And for that, I am incredibly blessed. That's not just, I'm so blessed many, many ways. That's not, even the greatest of them. But I was blown away and very thankful for that. So that's how this came to be and how we ended up doing the show today. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, give me a thumbs up. And that's going to do it for now. Happy record hunting. We'll see you next time.